Hi, everyone. Last week, we spent some time talking about the shadow self. And one thing that I really want to reiterate is that the shadow self is a part of us. And there's really nothing you can do to get rid of it. It's always going to be there. But what we have to understand is that it's always going to be there. And as a part of us, we have to learn to understand that part of us and to embrace that part of us and to really realize that that part isn't going anywhere and to learn to love those parts of ourselves. So, there's some darkness in all of us. And a lot of times that darkness is what keeps us safe. It's what gives us the emotional grit that's necessary to get through certain situations. I know that in my life, a lot of times where I was faced with severe adversity, it was digging deep and getting into that dark side that caused me to be able to move myself forward, to be able to stand up for myself, to be able to tell people no. And it's really important that we learn to understand, you know, that part's always going to be there. We need to understand it. We need to understand how it influences us and how it influences our lives. So one way that the shadow self influences our lives is with personal conflict. So, we all have personal conflict, but there are some things that the shadow self really, really brings out in these conflicts, and that actually even causes these conflicts. One of them is you repeatedly attract the wrong person, and you attract the same person over and over and over again. And now I know was guilty of this. And the interesting thing is that I swore when I was younger that when I got into long-term relationships with men, that I would never allow myself to be hit. And I got into relationships with men who never raised a hand to me, never physically abused me, but they were emotionally abusive and they were mentally abusive, which is still abuse. And honestly, thinking back on it, I honestly would have rather that somebody hit me, because when somebody hits you, it doesn't leave a very lasting scar. It doesn't leave a very lasting mark on you. But the emotional damage that's caused by somebody that is verbally, emotionally, and mentally abusive can last a lifetime. And it wasn't until my husband now that I realized that there were such things as, people being emotionally and mentally abusive. I didn't know at the time that was a form of abuse. And because of the way I was, and because of parts of my shadow self, I kept seeking out people who I knew deep down would treat me this way, because it was something that I needed to figure out, something that I needed to sort out. Once I sorted that issue out, then I realized how to change. And then I met the right person, somebody who is neither physically nor mentally or emotionally abusive. Somebody rubs you the wrong way. There's just somebody that does something that just irritates the crap out of you. And it can be anything from something super simple to something ridiculously like crazy. So there's somebody in my life, and some of you who are watching this will know who this person is, who drives me up a wall because she does nothing for herself. Absolutely nothing. And she complains about, always being broke or never having enough money, or, you know, can't make ends meet. I don't have enough money to buy groceries, and it's the poor me, pity me, feel sorry for me. And something about this just drives me absolutely insane. And you have to stop and think, like, what is it about this person or this situation that is making me crazy, that's driving me crazy? There is something in what she does that is an unowned part of myself. So there's something within me, and I have a feeling it's something where I'm afraid that, I'm going to be lazy and that I'm not going to do anything and I'm not going to accomplish anything. And, you know, that really, really just kind of rubs me the wrong way because I'm denying that part of myself. Right. So, one thing that I used to hear a lot when I was a kid was, you're never going to amount to anything. And I think the fact that she does nothing and I'm busting my butt trying to, build a really great life for myself. And it drives me nuts that she does nothing. And, here I am working my butt off. And, I think subconsciously I am terrified that I am going to become her. And maybe it's because I was always told that I would be that. And I need to take that part of myself that I'm repressing, this unowned part of myself, this hidden part of myself, and really dig it up. And a lot of these things that I bring up, I'm still struggling. I am still going through this process. I'm still trying to figure myself out. I am still trying to sort through my life. I'm trying to sort through my issues. We all have issues. So I know that one of the things that I need to work on is trying to go down and dig deep and find this unowned part of myself, figure out what the root cause of the problem is, what the trigger is, and learn to accept that part of myself and understand that, yes, that part is there and that's always going to be there, and I need to learn to love and accept that part of myself. And then once I learn to love and accept that part of myself, then I'll learn to be able to love and accept her. Because the issue is, like, when you have a problem with somebody, it's never them. There's never anything that is them specifically. It's something about them, something that they're doing, something that they're saying, the way that they're dressing, that really just drives you crazy. And it's something that is in you that you really, really just don't like about yourself. And a lot of times, whatever it is, it's something we're absolutely unwilling to admit that we won't accept about ourselves. And so you really have to just try hard to dig deep and figure out what that is, and then learn to love and accept it. And, I know it sounds flippant when I'm saying this, but it's not an easy process. It is by no means anywhere near easy. And it is a process. I mean, this is something that I have been doing for close to 20 years now, and I'm still digging up stuff. People say things. Emotions are what cause memories. Things don't, people don't, emotions are what cement our memories in our brain. And it's the emotions from these events, whether they were really, really happy events or really traumatic events, it's the feelings of that event that we remember. We don't even remember half the time, like, the entire situation from beginning to end, the whole thing, how it really, really happened or how it transpired. What we really remember is how that situation made us feel. And, these repressed parts of ourselves, like I said last week, if we continue to repress them, we're going to continue to see these things in people, and it's really going to drive us bonkers. I mean, it's going to drive us bonkers to the point of insanity until we actually figure out what these are, we find them, and we figure out how to learn to accept these parts of ourselves. So, one of the things is you can find yourself in a continual cycle of fighting about the same things over and over again. And again, it's just, this whole thing where you're not fighting about the toilet seat being up or the toilet seat being down or the dishes not being done. You're fighting about something that is buried deep inside of you that you're afraid to admit. Maybe your partner not putting the dishes away or not, loading the dishwasher or not doing the laundry or not taking the garbage out, stems from insecurities. I don't really know. There's any number of possibilities. I am not a psychologist. I do not pretend to be a psychologist. I don't want anybody to think that I'm a psychologist. But what I know is what I've been through and what I've done to actually get through all this stuff, or to start getting through all this stuff, and to make myself feel better. So, if you're fighting about a certain situation or a certain thing, just one thing that your partner does that just drives you insane, or one thing that one person does that just drives you crazy, like I really can't stand when somebody clicks their pen. I mean, yeah, that is annoying, but a lot of times people can just ignore it, or they can say, hey, it really bugs me, can you, stop doing that? But the interesting thing about the people that it drives crazy, they won't say anything. They'll just sit there seething. And then they use that as a justification for their feelings, because what they're really doing is they're ignoring the truth. They're ignoring what the real truth is. And by, focusing on, that pen's just clicking and clicking and clicking. And oh my God, I can't believe he's just clicking the pen. I worked in an office with somebody who may or may not see this, so I apologize if you do see this, who was a nail biter. So like all day long, I'd hear, and then, eventually I was like, look, dude, you're driving me crazy, because like I can't stand it. It didn't stop him, because I mean, it's a compulsive thing, but he was more mindful about it. And I had to think to myself, what about that was driving me crazy? Like, why did I let that get to me? Why did I let that bother me? And it's the same thing when people have problems with you. Whatever problem that they have with you, it's their problem. It's not your problem. You don't have to own that. If somebody has a problem with me, that's your problem. You have to figure out why you have a problem with me. So if somebody has a problem with me, and they have to figure out what their problem with me is, then this, in the same regards, if I have a problem with somebody, then it's my responsibility to figure out why I have a problem with them. And there are some people that are just annoying. There are some people that are just, it's hard to find a word to say it, that are just complete dickheads. And they're never going to change. A snake can shed its skin 100 times in its lifetime, and it's still a snake. So, some people just, no matter how much they say they're going to change, or that, they want to change, they can shed their skin and they're still going to be a snake. So, you really have to watch out for the feelings, and the mindfulness comes in recognizing the feelings. So when you find yourself being irritated about something that's in traffic, or you're in the store and you see somebody dressed a certain way, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that person would go out public. Like, I've seen people, I saw somebody last year, and I don't understand. And I don't know, maybe I just have a little more self-respect, and I don't want to judge by saying that this person doesn't have self-respect, because that's a judgment thing, and it's not my place to judge. But I was walking and I saw her, and she was wearing shorts, and I mean, her shorts were so short that half her butt was sticking out. And I was like, "Man, I can't believe that, she would even feel comfortable walking around like," and so I'm walking around where I am for a little while, just like pondering this woman who's walking around wearing these shorts, and she's pushing like a stroller with a kid in it. And I'm thinking to myself, this poor kid is going to grow up with this mother who dresses like this. And then what's the kid going to look like? And so we all get in these situations of judgment. And so when you're getting into these situations of judgment or criticism or anger or frustration or fear, we have to stop and ask ourselves, what is it about this situation that drives us crazy? Because honestly, a self actualized person wouldn't care. They wouldn't even notice. They wouldn't pay attention, or, even if they did notice, it would just be like, whatever, it's her, like, you go, girl. You know, more power to you. And so we have to try and be mindful that these thoughts are going through our heads and that we're starting to feel these feelings and figure out, okay, so, here's, I usually, I'll show you, have a little notebook that I have, like, I've got one on my desk here, and then I've got a notebook. I'm not even joking. I've got one next to my bed. I've got one in the kitchen. I've got one in the center console of my car, and I am not above pulling off to the side of the road while I'm driving, because you should never write while you're driving, and writing down, like, this situation happened, this is how it made me feel, and maybe I don't have time right this second to analyze it and try and figure out what it is about this specific situation that drove me crazy. Another one is like the phone, so I use like a voice recorder on my phone. So if I'm out like walking or whatever, and I don't have a pen and paper, or like walking through the grocery store or whatever, I'll just do a little note, like, this person was walking down the aisle, and I don't know, they had blue hair, and I hate blue hair. I don't hate blue hair. I had some blue hair for a little while, but what is it about these things that drive us crazy? And why are we attracting these people? Why are we fighting about the same things? And try and figure out what part of us, what unowned part of us are we ignoring? And, why is it making us feel this way? So, one thing I'd really ask you to, take a look at is just spend a little time over this next week, and any situation that you find yourself in. I know a lot of people really aren't going into work anymore, but I think work is a place where a lot of people find these conflicts. You find people that you're judging all the time, and that you really, I don't know, you just have serious issues with. And just write down every time you can, and if you have to do cryptic notes because other people are around and they can see, so that they don't say like, oh, I saw Jane today, and she was wearing this shirt, and I really hate that shirt on her. I can't believe she wears that shirt because it's too tight, or it's too short, or the whatever, you can see too much, or write that down. And then whatever it is about that person that drives you crazy, and it's something that has to be consistent. It's not like a, just for today thing, unless it is a situation where, every time somebody cuts you off in traffic, you get super anxious or you get super pissed off. And, write down those situations, and then try and figure out what it is within you. It is an unknown feeling that, or, an unknown aspect of yourself that is really making you that angry. It's really crazy how many things we bury. And it's really crazy how many ways they come out, and, how much they can truly affect us in our daily lives. And we don't even realize it. We have absolutely no clue that all of these things that we've repressed, all of these things that we really just don't want to deal with, truly control so many aspects of our life. So, just take a minute every time something really irritates you or rubs you the wrong way or makes you, feel anxious or angry, write it down and spend some time thinking about it. Write it down before you go to bed. I've mentioned before journaling. You can just get a normal notebook, just a normal old notebook. You can get this at the store. I don't know if they're going to be putting out school supplies this year. But write it down before you go to bed. One of the best things that you can do for yourself before you go to sleep is write down a problem that you've been struggling with and then go to sleep. Don't think about it like, while you're trying to fall asleep. Just write it down and let it go. And let your brain work on it while you're sleeping. And then when you wake up in the morning and you're in the shower, your brain will knock on you and be like, hey, I got a solution to this problem. Or you'll remember something and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I remembered that. It's interesting how many times things come up. So one thing for me, for the longest time, I had a huge problem with my finances. Huge problem with my finances. And I couldn't figure out why. I do really well. I'm really smart. I worked in accounting for more than 20 years. I know how to manage money. I can manage other people's money, but for some reason, I just can't manage my own money. And I couldn't figure out why. I went through the whole, grew up poor and, all these money blocks and all this stuff. And it wasn't until just, I don't know, maybe like 2 years ago that I realized a relationship that I'd been in, which is one of the emotionally abusive relationships. He wouldn't let me control the finances, wouldn't let me have any control over the finances whatsoever. Now, at the time, I worked 2 jobs. I wasn't allowed to have a bank account. I had to sign my checks over to him every week when I got paid. So I'd get my checks and I'd sign them, and then he would take them and deposit them into his bank account. I got an allowance, which was just enough money to go to for gas to get to and from work every day, and cigarettes because I smoked. Yes, I used to smoke. It was horrible. And I'm really sad that I did it, but I quit more than 21 years ago. Anyway, so, we would go to the bank and he would go to the ATM machine and he would make me turn my head and, put my hand up like this so he could put in it. So couldn't even see the PIN number. And I was completely dependent on him financially, which is ridiculous because I was working 2 jobs and I was making more money than him. But I was completely dependent on him financially. And because he was the one who managed all the money, who paid all the bills, like we would go to the grocery store and he would write the check for the groceries. He was the one that paid all the bills. I wasn't allowed to pay any bills or anything like that. That right there screwed me up so bad that for years after, and this was, I don't know, like 23 years ago, that I couldn't manage my finances because I didn't know that I could. Like psychologically, deep down, I didn't know that I could. I would get money, and as soon as the money was in, it'd be gone. My bills were being paid late. I had a car repossessed. My credit rating was horrible. And it wasn't until just a couple of years ago doing this work, trying to figure out what was the one thing that is causing me to be terrible with my finances. That situation right there made me believe that I wasn't capable of handling finances. And because of that belief that I wasn't capable of handling finances, then I literally couldn't handle my finances. And it wasn't until that I figured out that was where my belief came from, and I was able to let that belief go, that everything shifted. And everything's gotten so much better. So it's crazy how these things that we don't even know are there are really, really controlling us. So, I implore you to just take some time dig deep, try really hard to figure out just one thing. It doesn't have to be a lot of things. Going through a lot of this right all at the same time, it's very stressful. So just try and find one thing. If there's, one conflict that you come up with on a regular, consistent basis that really just drives you insane, try and figure out what it is that's causing that conflict within yourself. And I guarantee that it's going to make your life so much better. So until next week, do the work, take care of yourselves, stay healthy, and stay positive, and we'll see you next week.